That Section 8 living ain't what they say. You get a bad tenant, man, you gonna pay. Lesson learned, now I see the signs. Next time, cash up front or decline.
Housing when I was 18 years old. I was a teen mother myself. So right after high school, I'd moved into public housing, and it was a stepping stone for me as a single mom to get on my feet. So I'm not never downplaying Section 8 housing. For the people who got goals, it's a stepping stone. It's all about what you make at the end of the day, but you cannot get comfortable in Section 8 housing and think you're going to be successful, because your rent can be all the way down to zero, depending on what state you live on. It's based on your income and how much you bringing into the table and how many children you have and what's your household size. So you can get low rent, but in the day, you got to understand, when you live in Section 8 houses, also cons go with that. You got the government controlling your whereabouts, how much money you can make, what type of company you can keep in your house. Sometimes you got to put your child father on child support when you living in Section 8 housing. So it's not all peaches and cream. They steady worrying about how many jobs you can make. They kind of like keep you at a limit because you got somebody controlling you.
So there are certain qualifications for Section 8 housing assistance for the tenants. There are also requirements that the landlord has to follow as well. So the tenant income needs to be below a certain level. They perform background checks on you. You're supposed to follow lease terms and follow the terms given by the Public Housing Authority. Pay your portion of the rent if you're required to make a payment, because you do have what is called zero income tenants. So these are the tenants that pay zero. Okay, so she mentioned that the father can't be in the household, which many women say the father isn't there, but there actually are. They're actually still living there. Now, I don't know about the child, the man that's living there that's not the kid's father. That's a whole nother thing. And so if the father isn't living with the tenant, but he is court ordered, let's say, to pay child support, PHA, which is the Public Housing Assistance, may count that as income for the tenant. Now, just because you file and put your child's father on child support doesn't mean you're actually going to receive that money. He may never make his child support payment. So now if he isn't paying that, they might ask proof from the court records or some type of statements. Now, if the father is regularly staying there and he's not on a lease, this could be a violation of your Section 8. And so what happens is, if you add the father to the household or add him to the lease, then Public Housing Authority will check his income and do a background check, okay? And if his income is too high, you might lose your Section 8 assistance, or you might have to pay more money. So therefore, that's why a lot of women take a risk with losing their Section 8. They still want the father to be there. They still have feelings for him and want him to be there with their kids. But at the same time, in order for them to qualify, they have to say that he's not there.
So yeah, how exactly does the Housing Authority screw over Section 8 landlords and the Section 8 tenants? Well, it has to do with the rental payments. So pretty much, I'm sure most of you guys know how it works. Or have an idea of how it works. How the Housing Authority, they'll put their payment standards up on their site, and they'll put what they're willing to pay for properties in certain zip codes and houses with a certain amount of bedrooms. So that's pretty much the gist of it. You can look on your local Housing Authority's website, look for the zip code your property is in, see how many bedrooms your property has, and then it'll tell you how much they're willing to pay for their property. But here's the thing, 9 times out of 10, you probably won't get that full amount. I usually tell people to calculate about 80% of what they post and run the numbers off of that amount, because you have to account for the utilities. So say the payment standard amount for your property is, say, $3,000. Now, 80% of $3,000 is $2,400. So I'd suggest running the numbers off of $2,400 if you're not going to pay for the utilities, which most landlords don't do. And there's no way of knowing exactly how much they're going to charge for utilities unless this Housing Authority has the utilities allowance sheet. You can see it added up and see how much they're going to take into account for utilities. But if they don't have the utilities allowance sheet posted, then it's more so a guessing game. So in order to get the full amount of the payment standard that they have posted, you as the landlord have to pay all of the utilities for the tenant. And it's a couple of reasons why landlords would do this. Number one, like I just said, you'll be able to get a higher rental amount. And this is a strategy that some landlords use. They'll put energy efficient everything in the house. Energy efficient light bulbs, energy efficient water heater, energy efficient faucet heads, shower heads, energy efficient toilets. Everything in the house will be energy efficient. The HVAC, every single thing. And they'll try to lower their utilities bills so low to the point where if they're getting the full payment standard, the amount that they're getting is a lot higher than the amount that the utilities cost.
All right, so I'm going to stop it right there. So the Housing Authority sets a payment standard for Section 8 properties based on zip code and number of bedrooms in the unit, okay? So this is the maximum amount they are willing to cover for rent and utilities combined. If the Housing Authority's payments for a 4-bedroom property in a certain zip code, let's say, is $3,000 per month, that means they expect rent plus utilities to total $3,000. Now, this can change if there's no stove or refrigerator in the unit. That means you get less money as the landlord for obvious reasons that the tenant has to then go buy a stove and a refrigerator. And if the tenant is responsible for utilities like water, electricity, gas, the Housing Authority deducts an estimated amount from the payment before paying you, the landlord. The problem with this is that these estimated amounts are often higher than the actual utility costs. Let's say that the Housing Authority estimates the utility cost for a 4-bedroom property as, let's say, the water is $150 a month, sewer $240 a month, and that the total being what, $390 a month. So the Housing Authority will then subtract that $390 of that $3,000, which will leave you with $2,610. Yeah, $2,610. But ladies and gentlemen, this here is where it gets a little tricky though. All right, so if you are a landlord or you have a property and you want to get on the voucher and stuff like that, be very careful. Make sure you follow the law, ladies and gentlemen, please. Here's where you can get in trouble. Some landlords will accept side payments or unauthorized rent charges from the tenant, okay, that aren't approved by the Housing Authority. So these payments are not being reported to the Housing Authority. So for example, if the Housing Authority agrees to pay $2,500 in rent and the tenant portion, let's say, is $200, then the landlord, let's say they secretly charge the tenant an extra $200 in cash every month, making the actual payment, what is that, 25 plus 2, $2,900. This is not being reported. It violates Section 8, okay? And you can face criminal penalties and possibly some jail time. So this will happen if a tenant wants to, let's say, live in a particular area, yet their voucher doesn't cover for it, right? So they may be trying to work with the landlord saying, please, can I stay in this property? I want to stay in this area and all this other stuff, right? And the landlord might go and say, okay, and do a side deal with them, with that tenant, which is a bad deal. Right now, you may be able to get away with it for a little bit until you actually have to say evict that tenant because they're not making their payments that you agreed on. And then the tenant, what they do was when you go down to court, they'll just start airing out all your business, right? And, about that side deal and that agreement that you guys came up with, causing you, the landlord, to face some criminal charges. And then you may have where the landlord might submit, a fake lease agreement saying that the rent is X amount of dollars, but then agrees with the tenant on another amount. And this reminds me of just how Donald Trump, talks about how he want to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. But it goes much deeper than this, actually, you guys. We're in some situations, caseworkers in on it, you know what I'm saying? They're working with the tenant. Same thing goes for food stamps and unemployment office and stuff like that. Some people might get a kickback. Hey, I helped you, get something, so I need something in return. Hey, can I get some of them stamps kind of thing? But you working, another thing is like you working and not reporting it and all this other stuff. So let me know what you guys think about this. Share your thoughts. I want to hear some of you guys' stories about Section 8 in the comments below. If there's anything that you need to add to something that I said or anything that you feel like I misrepresented misrepresented, please leave them in the comments below. You guys, make sure you like this video, share this video, and subscribe to the channel. Take care, and I see you guys.